Very good morning and welcome you all of the participants at the day 7 programs. This is moderated from JKK. Sorry, it's moderated from Nehru College of Pharmacy. We will start this week with a small thought of never stop doing your best. With this, we will start this week and very good morning and warm welcome to you all.
A very pleasant and warm good morning to one and all. Nehru College of Pharmacy welcomes you to the second week of International E-Faculty Development Program, emerging challenges and opportunities in the field of pharmaceutical sciences and healthcare. Welcome you all.
Good morning, Dr. Ganesh. Good morning.
Very good morning, sir. Sir,
Your mic is muted. Your mic is muted. Please
unmute your mic, sir.
Sorry, my apologies. Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone are doing good. Good morning, sir.
Welcome.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So, very good morning. Sudhakar, sir, can we start, sir?
Can we?
Sudhakar, sir?
Yes, sir. Proceed, sir.
Okay, Rosri, madam, please.
A very warm and pleasant good morning to one and all. Respected Principal Dr. B. Sridharan, Nehru College of Pharmacy. Respected Vice Principal Dr. K.G. Prashant, Nehru College of Pharmacy. The Program Coordinator Dr. D. Sudhahar, Department of Pharmaceutical Analysis and Chemistry, Nehru College of Pharmacy. All the delegates, I welcome everyone to the second week of International E-Faculty Development Program. On the 7th day of EFDP, we are having Dr. Ganesh Pandin Balasubramanian, sir. Dr. Ganesh Pandin Balasubramanian is currently working as Senior Lecturer in Clinical Pharmacy and Pharmacy Practice Unit, Faculty of Pharmacy, AIMS University, Malaysia. Sir obtained his degree under the Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University. He is having more than 10 years of experience in teaching and research and guided to B.Pharm, M.Pharm and PharmD students. His research in geriatric pharmacotherapy, clinical pharmacy practice, metabolic syndrome, and public health pharmacy. Sir published his research findings in many reputed national and international journals. He participated and presented his research findings in different national and international scientific conferences. On behalf of Nehru College of Pharmacy, I welcome Dr. Ganesh Subramanian sir to the International E-Faculty Development Program of Nehru College of Pharmacy. Welcome you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, madam. And I welcome again, once again, I welcome you, sir, Ganesh Pandian, sir.
Thank you,
with a small words. A patient experience connects clinical excellence with great outcomes. With these words, I welcome you for your great delivery. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Shall I start, sir?
Yeah, please, sir.
Yeah. Just a minute. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Back in India. So yes, now it is a difficult time, but it is. We are just getting together through various means. Yeah, that is what the motto of this today's presentation also. And before I just go with my presentation, I would like to thank the management, Nehru Group of Institutions, Principal Sir, Program Coordinator, Dr. Sudhakaran Sir, for giving me an opportunity for presenting this my topic of interest in this International E-Faculty Development Program. So before I proceed, just for checking, like, is my audio clear? And also, can you see my slides, please?
Sir, kindly maximize your slide, sir. Full screen.
Full screen.
Yeah, down. There is a percentage, no, beside that, the Zoom percent. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Yes,
no, 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 not that one. Beside, just before that. Before 95 percentage, there is a small icon is there. Just click
yeah.
that. Yeah, fine.
Slideshow.
Yes,
Now
yes,
it's fine,
yes.
sir.
No, it's not coming, sir.
Okay, sir. Just a minute, sir. Just a minute. Sorry for.
No, it's okay, sir. Or else go to view. There you can click full screen.
In present now, I should click my entire screen.
Yeah, enter screen, sir. Enter screen.
Okay, sir. Then. Yes, sir. Hope it is fine now.
Yes, sir. It's coming, sir. Full
Okay.
screen.
Okay.
Which is why your audio also very clear. Proceed,
Okay,
sir.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry for the delay, and my apologies for my end, because first time I'm just using this Google Meet, because we are for the past few months we were just using the Zoom. Okay, so without further ado, today, yes, as I mentioned before, the topic will be the challenges and opportunities in the clinical pharmacy services in lieu of the COVID-19, the pandemic what we have now. But before that, I thought like maybe it will be better for me, like if I can give insight of what all the different clinical pharmacy services which are being conducted throughout the world, or which has been practiced throughout the world, and later we can focus on what areas that we can explore, what we can explore, like to extend our services. Yes, of course, I also did my master's in back in India. So I still accept like there we are, even though we have started our clinical pharmacy program a decade ago, 2 decades ago, still we are not doing it completely. That means like the clinical pharmacists, they are not being completely utilized. Wait, I thought like this will be an opportunity. The pandemic is, of course, it is not at all a good sign, but maybe this can be an opportunity, like how our clinical pharmacy services or the various area of pharmacy can be used, right? So with this, I would like to go with my presentation, and my presentation outline will be like initially the introduction, the basics of the pharmacy and as well as the clinical pharmacy, and followed by the various clinical pharmacy services which are being offered throughout the world, and what are the challenges we are facing now, and what can be the opportunities that we can explore. Where I try to put in this presentation, like not only to a particular country, maybe throughout the world we can go with this one, right? So first of all, a pharmacist is, as per the definition, is a qualified person who formulates, dispense, and provide clinical services and information on drugs, right? So this is the definition which gives like we will be formulating, we will be dispensing, and we will be providing the clinical services and also about the drug information to the health professionals, to the patient. Of course, the patients are the end users of the medications what we prepare, and to the general public, in order to achieve a good public health, health, right? As per, if we look into the definition of the WHO, what does the health means is it's not merely like if we are completely free of the disease means like that doesn't mean like we are healthy. Once we our mental status should be good, and of course the role what we play in the society, right? So everything contributes to consider anyone as a healthy one, right? Yes. This is the definition of the health for WHO, where in order to provide or in order to achieve this health, we cannot assure like everyone is of good health. Maybe sometimes it may be because of the disease. So in order to, in such cases, like medical team or the healthcare facility have to be utilized in order to get their health in a good shape. Where in providing the healthcare, there are different professionals who are involved in providing the healthcare, where pharmacists is also a team member in providing the healthcare, right? So we are being considered, we as a pharmacist are being considered as a medicines expert because we are completely or thoroughly, we are just learning about the medication, all about medication or the drugs. So we know like what will be the medications and how it can be used and how to safeguard the use of the medications, right? So that's why if you look into the definition for the practice of pharmacy, where it will be embraced in the various settings. Like it's not only to a particular setting. Maybe we can do it in a hospital, in a clinic, in a community, right? Everywhere, even in the public health, we just go conduct a medical camp. There also we can do our, we can practice our pharmacy, we can practice our profession, right? So we are providing, as a pharmacist, we are providing the professional services throughout all the settings to the all the populations, and even the basic, if anyone is in need of some information, they're just approaching the pharmacist. By the way, pharmacist is the first person for a public to be contacted, right? If a person who is in a locality, particular locality, he want to know about something means, then just go a pharmacy shop and ask the pharmacist. But there is a question like how many pharmacists we do have in every pharmacy shop. That is a debatable one, which we can leave it. That is not for today's presentation. And wait, this practice of pharmacy provision is it's the provision of the clinical services, where either we provide it directly or to the indirectly in order to benefit the patients. Why clinical services is, yes, of course, we are very strong in the industrial setup. We are very strong in the other areas. But coming to the pharmacy practice or the clinical pharmacy, I think that should be more focused on where a drug which has been prepared or which has been manufactured for to be used by individual, when the drug reaches to the patient or when reaches to the public, there is lack of support from pharmacy side. So in order to use them safely, where like yes, now for the past 2 decades we are having the clinical pharmacy course throughout the country. In terms of the MPharm pharmacy practice or PharmD, which has been started, we almost finished a decade, right? So now slowly the understanding is coming out throughout the other professionals also, like what we can do. And when we look into the concept of the WHO's concept of the 7-star pharmacist, a pharmacist should be able to perform all this role, right? We have to be a caregiver, we have to be a communicator, we should be a decision maker, a teacher, lifelong learner, leader, and also a manager, right? So this is what the definition or the concept of 7-star pharmacist by the WHO is embracing. Yes, the other concepts also there, like 8-star pharmacists and 9-star pharmacists, but we can, this is like an amended version of the WHO's 7-star pharmacist concept, right? So when we look into those things, right, this is more focusing to the patient, where it is not something else. It is focusing to the patients to the major scale, right? So that's why maybe the clinical pharmacy have been evolved since 1960s. Maybe a few incidents which have caused to the evolving of the clinical pharmacy is the drug-related problems or the drug-related illness which have been caused. So, and also the cost which has been incurred for the patients, those who are taking the medication, and also lack of support, where these are all the main need which have been caused to develop the concept of the clinical pharmacy, right? Where according to the American College of Clinical Pharmacy, where clinical pharmacy is a health science discipline in which pharmacists provide the patient care that optimizes medication therapy promotes health, wellness, and disease prevention, right? The health, it refers to the WHO's health also, right? The definition of health, but this is the definition by the American College of Clinical Pharmacy, where what should be for the clinical pharmacy, right? So mainly we will be optimizing the medication therapy. Optimizing is like what is suitable for the individual, right? We are not going to have a blanket rule like this kind of medication have to be taken by everyone in the same way. Cannot. It have to be different, right? So it have to be separate for different for a pediatric. It have to be separate, separately administered or even taken care for the geriatric population and the other population also, right? So we optimize the medication therapy, right? How the patient has been responding, and by doing that, the promoting the health, wellness, and the disease can be prevented, right? Where the clinical pharmacy will be blending orientation with the specialized therapeutic knowledge. It's not like only we know about the clinical pharmacy, we can perform our job. It's not like that. We need to have a sufficient background knowledge about all the specialty in the pharmacy. So that's why we can provide an optimal patient outcome. Where by doing this one, we have an obligation to contribute to the generation of the new knowledges, right? Because now we have different kind of medications available and different kind of problems also available arising. So we have to cope up with the community, right? So when a clinical pharmacy services or a clinical pharmacist is doing certain job, we do follow a philosophy known as the pharmaceutical care, where pharmaceutical care as defined by the Hepler Strand, it is the definition is quite big. Maybe you can see over here. In order to put it in a nutshell, where this is like we coordinating or we in connection with the other healthcare team members or other healthcare professionals, we can design, we can implement, and also we can monitor the therapeutic plan, right? So in order to do by doing this one, we can achieve a certain outcome for a patient. But here it is mentioned like a definite outcome because the outcome is not going to be the same for every individual. Sometimes the quality of life will be different or will be differing from each and every category of people. So based on their living quality, the outcome can also be differ, right? So coming for the responsibilities for the clinical pharmacist, these are the responsibilities as defined by the American College of Clinical Pharmacy, where we will be assessing the patient's health status and we optimally meet the patient's need. And by meeting that one, we achieve the goal of care, right? So the evaluation have to be done for in order to achieve appropriate and effective medication to be administered and to recognize the untreated health problems, right? Sometimes the medication which is wrongly prescribed or which is not prescribed. So those kind of things we have to recognize and we need to identify and we need to resolve the problem, okay? And mainly the patient progress will be followed where by following this we can achieve the outcome, right? So the next roles and responsibilities you can see like consulting with the physicians and other healthcare providers to select the medication therapy. By the way, we are not doing it in most of the countries. It has not been accepted in most of the countries except certain countries. And advising the patient on how to take the medications, supporting the healthcare team's effort where in order to educate them, right? Patient education is mainly is very important in achieving the outcome or good outcome among the public. It's not an individual, among the whole society, right? And referring the patient to the physician. Wait, if you look into this, the last three roles and responsibilities, you can see this is what we are doing effectively nowadays, advising the patient in terms of the patient counseling. And this is also by conducting the various health games and also providing the patient education. And referring the patient is mainly from the community pharmacy, right? In a hospital setup, it is not done effectively. And if you ask me, like the clinical pharmacy services, is it only done in the clinical pharmacy? It's not. The clinical pharmacy services or the clinical pharmacy responsibility can be done in every setup which has been practiced, right? Either in the hospital, in the community setup, in the public health setup, everything we can perform, right? So maybe the activity, it can be different, but where we are performing, because the patient counseling can be done in the community pharmacy also. So where it has been done in the clinical, the hospital setup also, right? So if we look into the the various level of action of the clinical pharmacy services, it is basically, it was being divided like before the prescription, during the prescription, and after the prescription, where this division or this categorization was being mainly done when a patient visits a hospital, visit a physician. But now the problem is like there is some difficulty in visiting the physician also because of the current pandemic. So how we can modify it? So that's what we can see. And clinical pharmacy services and activities, by doing this, we can minimize the inherent risks associated with the use of medicines, right? The drug-related problems can be avoided or minimized, and the patient safety, finally, we can achieve, and also the cost effectiveness of the therapy also we can achieve, right? So by doing this one, the health outcome for the patient is being optimized. Right? Throughout the world, this is according to the SHPA. This is some of the clinical pharmacy services which has been followed, like medication reconciliation, assessing the current medication management, medication therapy management, and clinical review, therapeutic drug monitoring, adverse reaction, ADA management, contributing to the medication management plan. Like the pharmacists are being a decision maker in selecting the drugs, right? Where some of the countries, they have been even fighting for the dispensing rights, right? The pharmacist should have the dispensing right. That means like the physician can prescribe the medication, and the pharmacist will choose the what brand have to be given, and what dose and everything will be the pharmacist can be deciding on. And providing the medicine information is been done, like the drug information is being effectively followed throughout the world, wherever the clinical pharmacy services are being provided. And continuing medication management during discharge, right? So this is also a part of the medication reconciliation, and participating in the interdisciplinary ward rounds, right? So this is the ward round pharmacy, where ward pharmacy, where the different clinical pharmacy services are being performed. Before we go with the ward pharmacy, first we need to know like what are the different areas that the pharmacists or the clinical pharmacists are being working. Where when the major role or major responsibility of the pharmacist is to review the prescription, no matter whether in the community or in the hospital, we need to review the prescription, right? By reviewing the prescription, we can identify if any problems, if any inappropriateness, and by doing this, we can achieve the optimum medications or optimum therapy given for that, right? So by doing this normal routine clinical pharmacy job, or a job of a clinical pharmacist will go with the ward round participation, where in the ward round participation, we will be going for the medication chart review, clinical review, where the patient's response, in addition, interpreting the response with the laboratory parameters, and checking the medication history during the admission of the patient for every patient, and providing counseling, right? So this will be the majority of the services will be done in a hospital setup, right? So this has been done for each and every ward. If you look into the other countries where are performing with the clinical pharmacy services, they will be having dedicated clinical pharmacists for every individual wards. It's not like the one clinical pharmacist for some. Maybe in Malaysia, if you can take for every ward, there will be at least 4 to 5 clinical pharmacists for the particular ward, right? So they will be performing, they will be completely monitoring the patient, right? So these are all the areas or the different area in the ward, different wards, which we can find in a hospital, where the clinical pharmacists are been performing their job. Wait, in addition to that, this is what some of the services I was talking about, like which has been performed, especially in Malaysia. You can see like the clinical pharmacists have been taking part in providing the parental nutrition pharmacy services, where preparing the TPN and enteral nutritions. Right, the pharmacist will be deciding or will be calculating the patient need, and based on the patient's need, the nutritional support will be provided, and even the preparation will be done in the hospital premises itself, right? So everything has been done by the pharmacist, the parental nutrition, preparation of the TPN, and cytotoxic drugs are being reconstituted, where this has been followed to the patients, those who are receiving the chemotherapy, where the pharmacist will be preparing, reconstituting, right, administering and disposing all completely about the cytotoxic drugs will be taken care by the pharmacist, right, completely by the pharmacist, and the reconstitution will be taken, will be done in the aseptic room, right? So for the hospitals, right, here, most of the hospitals are been the government, public hospitals, right? Like in our country, like we have like more number of private hospitals, where the government hospitals is minimal. But the services are been differing from there to here. Like all the hospitals, the major hospitals will be having the CDR facility, the aseptic room facility, where the hospital which don't have the CDF, the aseptic room facility, will be can outsource from the hospital which is having this setup, right? So this has been, the chain is being maintained. The another thing is like the methadone replacement therapy. The methadone replacement therapy is being done in order as a harm reduction for the drug abusers, right? So the drug abuse, the clinical pharmacist is not only like we can do our part in only in the smoking cessation. More than that, like drug abuse also we can stop, right? So this is also like something like the DOTS therapy, where in the directly observed treatments therapy, we will be, short course, we will be observing the patient, right? The patient how to take the medication in front of us. But here also, it's like the prescription of the methadone will be done by the medical officer who are dealing with the patient, the abuser, and the pharmacist will be supervise the consumption by making sure like the adherence to the replacement, methadone replacement is being followed, right? So yeah, medication therapy adherence clinic, shortly known as MTAC, right? This is done in effectively, this is nothing but the patient counseling done done on a routine basis. So means like every day they will be having one department. For example, Monday is for a diabetic and respiratory, and the other days are being allotted to one day, right? The patient who are having the problems, they can come for the consultation, and after the consultation they can counsel, or they can have a discussion with the pharmacist who are working or who are specialized over there, right? So this is being done regularly. It's not on on a temporary basis. It's not like that. Every day it has been fixed. Like the MTAC therapy or the MTAC clinic will be open, so the patient can be free to get the services, right? So here, all about the medications, right? Assessing the patient's use, like how the medication they are taking, and in case if the previous visit, if it is not effective, means like identifying what is the problem, right? Majorly in the respiratory one, the use of inhalers, right? It was identified here, like the inhalers was being not properly used, right? The improper use of the medical devices will leads to patient non-compliance, right? The patient will be claiming like they are using the medication, but finally the outcome might have not been achieved, right? So here those kind of problems have been solved by through the MTACs, by identifying. Here you can see like this are the actual pictures of the MTAC clinic, where this is for the respiratory one, where they are identifying, they are looking, the pharmacist will be looking like how the patient has been taking, right? If you're not taking it properly, so advising, educating them like how to take it properly. So by doing this one, the patient adherence is being achieved. Where in Malaysia only there are 13 types of MTAC services are available. This is not done as a one session. It will be done on a regular session. Whenever the patient come for the consultation and the follow-up visit, they will be attending the sessions, right? So this is done on the appointment basis. Okay. So in addition to this one, the other services provided are the therapeutic drug monitoring for the drugs with the narrow therapeutic index, and also the drugs which are being categorized as per the pharmaceutical division under the Ministry of Health Malaysia. So those drugs will be monitored closely for every patient, right? That will be done by the pharmacist. And nuclear pharmacy, where nuclear pharmacy is completely about dealing with the radiopharmaceuticals, where this has been dedicated to the certain major hospitals only, the 6 or 7 hospitals only in Malaysia is performing that one, dealing with the radiopharmaceuticals. Smoking cessation has been actively involved, the pharmacists have been actively involved, and Return Your Medication program is in order to safeguard the use of medications, right? So now, these are some of the services which have been used, or what I have came through and what I have seen. Where in addition to this one, there are some other services we are being done by the clinical pharmacists. But all of a sudden, this pandemic occurred. everything was going well, but this pandemic occurred. So now, because of this pandemic, there are a lot of problems arise which affected or which have disturbed what we have achieved so far. To be in a general words, like the patient who were completely compliant, right? So now, because of this pandemic, they are not complying. They are not adhering to the medication, and for this, there are a lot of reasons, right? Where nobody can deny on that one. There are a lot of reasons. So what are the major services or major factors which have been affected by the pandemic, and how we can do, or what we can consider in order to do for this, we can see now. Like, the major disturbance because of the pandemic is the pharmacy supplies interruption, where, because the major supplier is from China, is China. Now they were been majorly affected initially. So most of the services, most of the supply have been, the active pharmaceutical ingredient have been stopped, and also because of the lockdown and the restriction control. So there was difficulty in getting the products, getting the supplies, right? But because of this, it's not only the industry who have been affected. It have affected the end users, nothing but the public, the general population who have been using the services so far, right? So by the demand in the supply increase, and there is no proper supply, there is no adequate supply, there has been challenges in procuring the medication, where to keep up the stock was difficult, especially the PPEs and the mask, face masks, and the sanitizers, right? So by the increase in the demand, the price hike also was there, which made unaffordable for certain groups, right? Where back in our country, like, everyone cannot afford for the medical for the cost, medical cost, right? So suddenly, if they want to purchase something more than that, and also with this pandemic, like, most of them might have lost their livelihood, where they don't have a source of income. So they haven't followed, they haven't really followed, taken the medications, right? So another major problem in the pharmacy supplies are keeping up the distance, right? Social distancing was also a problem, where even a pharmacy, in a community pharmacy, let us speak about in a community pharmacy, where when a community pharmacy is there, means like, our setup, we know, like, it is not as defined by the regulations. Maybe it's like a shopping plot, you just can enter, stand in the road, get the medication. It was like that. But what is the regulation, or what is the requirement to have a pharmacy? It's not like just maybe, yeah, we can run our shop, but uh, there should be a definite space in order for the patient movement, the customer movement. Thankfully, now some of the pharmacies, the chain pharmacies in India, they're following the setup, right? How a pharmacy, typical pharmacy should look like, right? So where those areas, the social distancing will be possible, which don't risk the pharmacist, and as well as which don't cause any problem to the patient also. Like, but for the other area, it is quite difficult, right? So mainly, public depends on the community pharmacies, because now the lockdown and the restriction control is been affected. For the moment, the transportation have been affected, where they cannot go to the hospital, or they cannot go to the nearby clinic or something like that. So, but they can approachable point is like the community pharmacy, which has been located nearby. Thankfully, community pharmacies, the pharmacy services came as an essential supply, essential services, where it was not being affected. So anyone can approach the community pharmacies, even though they have not depended so far, right? How this the fear among the patients, or fear among the public, right? Considering the risk outside our home. If we step out of our home, there is a risk. Now, so by this situation, what can benefit to have the medications, and as well as the pharmacists, how they can deliver the medications, right? You might have know, now the Swiggy and the other services are delivering food. So why not the delivery of medicines can be possible in India, in our country? The delivery of the medicines yeah, certain pharmacies, they are doing like when they order to the considerable order more than a particular price range, they can utilize that services. But other than that, mm, we can extend our services. And just like you drive through the McD, you can drive through the pharmacy also. You can get your medications, but before that, you need to give your order. You need to order your medication so that it will be ready. And in order to get that one, the prescription have to be a digital one. That means like the e-prescription, right? So there are a lot of complications involved in getting the services, but you can understand like most of the countries, they have been following or they have been practicing this one, right? This is the actual drive-through pharmacy in Malaysia, where the patient, they can it was on the normal times, so that's why nobody is with the mask. But now you can see like with mask and the distancing, everything has been followed, where the pharmacist, the patient can order their medications and they can fix an appointment so that once they come in, they can get their medications without no need to wait in the counters, no need to wait for the medicines to be dispensed, right? So with this, it was being made easy for the patient to get their medications. Wait, in addition to this one, if drive-through is not possible, means like delivery of the medicines through the postal services, where in later in one of the problem also for achieving the medication adherence also, we need to we can take up this as an opportunity like delivery of the medications, right? And SMS and collect, this service was being done or is being performed in same like the drive-through pharmacy, but it is not in the pharmacy. Maybe it is in the some of the shopping malls, right? They select a particular locations and they can SMS, and once the appointment is being fixed, they can go and collect their medications, just like the drop box, the pigeon box. They will be keeping their medications and they can, but they can get their medications. But there are some complications and there are some problems associated with using this value added services also, right? These services, we cannot go with all kind of medications because the digital prescribing or the e-prescribing have to be effectively practiced or effectively implemented. Then only we can go with this one. And also, in order to safeguard the use of medications not to be abused, so there are some complications involved, but that can be overcome in near future, right? So another problem is the medication adherence was being completely distorted or completely destroyed because of this pandemic, where India comes under lower middle income countries, where as per the reports say prior to the pandemic, only the disease burden was more for the chronic diseases, the infectious diseases and the non-communicable diseases. Where now with the medication adherence, but with the service or with the effort of the healthcare team and especially with the pharmacists, we have made them to comply for the medications. But now with the pandemic, nobody is ready to come out to take the medication, right? So this is how the medication adherence have been disturbed. Where in order the lockdowns also is not enabling us to go with the to move freely, but now it has been open, right? So if the perception among the general population is in that way, like if they get out of their home that they will be infected, and also if they go to the hospital to go for a consultation or to a follow-up, they may get infected, right? So that is what the people, most of the people, they don't come out. They are compromising the medications compliance. And majorly the income have been compromised. Most of the breadwinners for every family have no income nowadays, to be frank. So that's why, because if they don't have money, like how it can be, it can that they can purchase medicines other than the food, right? So maybe here the medications, maybe my suggestion, like if the medications can be through the government setup, where it can be given for a minimal cost, right? So, but yes, the problem is also in the public thing. Like they don't we don't generally prefer the government services, right? So because of these problems, the non-compliance have been increasing, right? Increasing, so which directly affect the quality of life and length of their life and overall healthcare cost also will be increased. Right? By following the medication adherence, we can achieve the therapeutic outcomes for the many chronic diseases. And psychological impact of this pandemic among the patients with the chronic disease also is one of the major reasons, right? So now with the pandemic, especially with the geriatric population, you can see like they don't afford or they don't want to go, and they think like their life is going to end with this pandemic. So that's why they don't they are depressed. Even the normal adult or the normal person has been quite depressed to stay at home forever, right? Yeah. So how we can achieve, how we can assess like whether they are really adhering to the medication or not. So this is the recommendation from the SHPA, like how we can assess the patient complaints during COVID-19. We can ask the questions, the following questions, and make sure like how whether they are really following the medications or not, right? So for example, have you made any changes to your medication regimen during the pandemic? That means like whether they have stopped taking the medication or whether they have reduced taking the number of medication. Instead of twice daily, they have taken once or something like that, because that shows like they are not following or they're not adhering. Have you made any changes on how you fill your prescriptions? The prescription refilling can be answered by this one. And what was the problem that they are encountering by having this? Social distancing, how to be followed no matter what, but that is also difficult for certain group of people. And the income, the patient or the family have a sufficient income in order to buy the medications. If they don't have medication, that if they don't have the sufficient income, that means like their adherence to the medication is compromised, right? So especially now recently there are reports from the WHO and other bodies, like the self-medication rate is increasing during this pandemic. Like here and there we will be getting the reports like following the traditional medicine we can overcome this pandemic, and taking the other supplements and taking the certain drugs like will help us in overcoming this COVID-19. So with this information, the individuals are taking the medication by themselves, where this is not at all good, where this have to be restricted or restricted in order to safeguard the individual's health, right? So that also can be assessed, like what are the other supplements they take. By doing this one, we can avoid any drug interactions also. Yeah. The group of population which have been affected during this lockdown is the pediatric and as well as the geriatric population. Where the pediatric population is, they have to follow their vaccination schedule. Where the vaccination schedule is being not followed. You can see the report by the WHO. They say like what they have achieved so far, it have been compromised. It have been, the progress have been gone back. That means most of the family or most of the parents, they are not following or they are not compliant to the vaccinations. Why I'm saying this is like, if you can refer to my previous slides, you can see like informing by playing a role of, with the other professionals, we can create awareness and we can create the knowledge to get rid of some disease or to get rid of some problems, right? Because without vaccine, now we might be having too many diseases, but with the help of the vaccines, we have eradicated most of the diseases, right? The polio, right? So that have been completely eradicated. But now when we fail to follow the immunization schedule, then it is actually we are risking, right? So that's why here the reason for not vaccinating is fear among the patients, fear among the parents, like how to take the baby, whether if they take their baby out to clinic, whether they will get infected or not. And by the way, now general perception is like if we go to a clinic or if we go to a hospital, we may get the disease, right? So that's why they are not vaccinating, and this should not be overlooked or postponed, right? So you can see on the 15th July 2020, the WHO and UNICEF have warned the alarming decline in the number of children receiving life-saving vaccines, right? So this can be overcome by involving the pharmacist in vaccination, right? I'm not proposing something new. For the past for the last few years, pharmacists have been involved in vaccinating in America, right? So in America, they have a solid reason, right? The pharmacist is managing. We are the advocates for the to handle the vaccines. Of course, we can handle the vaccines. Why not? We can administer also, right? So yes, of course, we need to have a sufficient training on how we need to respond for if in case of any shock which happen immediately after the vaccination. All the training and the education we have to undergo, and by doing that one, the pharmacists can be involved in vaccinating, right? So they yeah, a 2018 study by the John Hopkins University, they have examined the use of the pharmacists for administering the flu vaccines when the epidemic have happened. Wait, this report have stated like there have been billions of dollars have been saved, right? Billions of dollars have been saved in terms like the control have been done effectively in a shorter span of time. For example, even for instance, if later we have a COVID-19 vaccine also later, right? So after doing all the research and even the now they have started the phase 3 for the AstraZeneca one, right? So after doing all the investment and after going all the process when the vaccine is out, but if the vaccine is administered only through certain centers or only through a particular locations only, where the access to the all the population will be limited, where that delays the process of vaccinating everyone, right? So there, the pharmacist and as well as the community pharmacists can be used to vaccinate, to go for the vaccination, where by doing that one, we can do it immediately, right? Instead of we go one center, like in a particular place, maybe we can go with the 10 pharmacists. So everyone go there, it can be done effectively in a shorter span of time, right? So that's why most of the governments, they have been suggesting to have the pharmacists as the frontliners to administer for the immunizations, because even though the pandemic is going on, we cannot compromise on the immunization schedule for the pediatric population, right? So with for your information, this is taken from the FIP, International Federation of Pharmacy Federation. Where these are all the countries where they are administering the vaccines through pharmacists, by pharmacists, right? It is not new, right? So even the other countries are been proposing to have vaccination by pharmacists. Okay, so maybe this may be another opportunity. Like if the vaccinations have been done by the pharmacist, maybe we can expand our services, which will be benefiting for the public health. Okay. Now the other group of population, the geriatric population, right? So as per WHO, anyone above 60 years old are considered geriatric. And as per the reports, like by the WHO and the UN report, India is the aging nation. Where aging nation, why I'm saying it is an aging nation is, or why the reports have been stated like aging nation is, like you can see the census report on 1901, the total number of geriatric population in India was about 5.06% only, which increased to 7.7% in 2001 and projected for 20% in 2050. So you can see, like by the year's progress, the total number of geriatric population is going to be more. The total number of aged persons is going to be more. Wait, at the time there will be difficulty in providing services to them only if you don't take any necessary actions now itself, right? So yes, this is not applicable to every country. Some countries, they are good in geriatric, and some countries they have started providing for the geriatric pharmacotherapy, and some it's not started, right? Even the curriculum, we don't have more intense knowledge for the geriatric pharmacy. Just most of the countries, right? I have conducted a research on the knowledge about the geriatric pharmacotherapy among the different professionals throughout the Malaysia. Unfortunately, like they don't have the much curriculum for dedicated for the geriatric pharmacy. Only a certain university. Our university got a course like geriatric pharmacy, which is the BPharm students have been taking out, where they know like what are the how the geriatric care can pharmacotherapy can be performed, right? So among this population, right, 75% of the geriatric populations are living in the rural areas. Rural area is something we can say like it is not well developed, right? So when the 75% of the geriatric populations have been living in the rural area, how a setup or how a pharmacy services can achieve or can be approached to the individual, the geriatric population, right? So this also been from pharmacy side, from the pharmacies, we can deliver the geriatric care, right? So in order to avoid the complications with the geriatric population. So the researchers have identified the crucial roles that the pharmacists can play in narrowing the gaps for delivering a geriatric care. Where in this one, the medication reconciliation is mainly emphasized. Like if you don't do that for the geriatric care, the problems the patient going to have is too much. Why I'm saying this is like geriatric persons, if you look into the prescription number of prescriptions of the geriatric prescriptions, we can have most number of medications which is how to be stopped, but it has been continued, or even the patient are also been taking the medication without stopping that medication. So that's why the reconciliation is a process where we need to evaluate or assess the patient's medication, and we need to come out with a list like what really the patient needs. So it is like scrutinizing the prescription for the actual medicines that the patient have to take. Where this medication reconciliation is applicable to all the age group. It's not only for the geriatric population, it is for everyone. But for geriatric population, it have to be done more intensely, right? And also at every point of care, transition of care, right? So, yeah, this medication reconciliation is when we do this one, the difficulty in doing the medication reconciliation is we don't have a system in order to get a complete information, right? So, for example, if a geriatric patient is visiting my pharmacy, I can give him or I can dispense him a medication, or a geriatric patient is visiting a doctor. He prescribe a medication and he go and see another doctor, right? He go and see another doctor for another problem. He prescribe another medication. When you look into the prescription, both the medications are being the same. The prescription duplication is being there, right? So this have been done. This happened because of there is no clear transition of information. We don't have a system in order to have a complete list of medications what the individual has been taking, right? So this will take time, but once we do that one, it will be easy even for the pediatric care also, like because the immunization schedule will be maintained as a record. The patient have to maintain the record, or the parents have to maintain the record. But when they go for the another setup, they need to take their record. If not, means then there is no any clear information like what the vaccination have been done and which one have been elapsed. Something the information have to be transferred at every possible point, right? So, yeah, by doing the medication reconciliation, the medication errors can be prevented, right? Where by identifying the failure to prescribe the clinically important home medications, where when they take in the hospital, we don't don't consider the medication what they have taken before, right? Most of the geriatric population, they will be having the chronic illness, so they will be definitely taking one or two medications, either for the diabetes or for the hypertension. They will be taking the medications, but this may not be considered, which leads to the medication error, and the doses and the dosage forms will not be revised, right? And the missed or duplicated doses and failure to clearly specify which medications they have to be discontinued and which one have to be taken, right? Those things we can, by identifying this one, we can avoid the medication error by doing the medication reconciliation. So this medication reconciliation can be done for the geriatric population, those who come to the hospital, those who come to the pharmacy, right? But the persons, those who cannot come or those who cannot visit the pharmacy or the healthcare setup, what we can do is like we go visit them, right? So that in terms of the home medication review, pharmacists can go maybe in addition with the other healthcare team members also, or if not means we alone also can go in order to review the medications, and we can assess the patient's adherence, how they are taking the medications, and we can identify if there are any PCIs or not, and is there any problems associated with that one. And later, based on that, we can reconciliate by doing the medication review, right? So in Malaysia, basically 3 types of home medication reviews are being performed by the pharmacy services, where for the neurology, psychiatry, and for the geriatric populations, right? So yeah, for improving the medication adherence, maybe this community pharmacies can be come to a role. Like now, so far we have been only dispensing the medication, and now in addition to that, we have taken like patient education also. Some of the pharmacies, they are doing the health screening also they are doing, and also they are counseling the patients, right? So now we can take it to another step, considering the current pandemic, right? Because of this pandemic, nobody has been approaching the healthcare services where we can utilize this opportunity, like we can in enhancing the patient medication adherence, right? For doing that one, we need to apply the technologies, right? Technologies is nothing complicated. We can use the same WhatsApp, the other chat messengers, right? So, or if not means we can call them and we can inform them. So by doing that, we can improve the medication adherence. Yeah. So when we do through the phone, it is considered as a telepharmacy, where we do everything by the through phones, because basically the concept is like the patient no need to come to see any of the healthcare team member, right? Any of the physician also they need to see, but that comes under the telemedicine, where under the telemedicine we can derive as a telepharmacy for what we can provide. Okay. So according to the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy, telepharmacy is the provision of the pharmaceutical care through the use of telecommunications and information technologies to patient at a distance, right? So they are living in remote locations or in far away from a health setup, so they can make use of this telepharmacy. Where it will be enabling us to frequently approach them, and efficiently we can do our services. All the services we can do when compared to the traditional medicine, right? So when we do traditionally, like the patient have to come and they have to wait for us, and then no matter whether we involve with the other patients and we involve with them, or after that, then we come and see for this patient. But in this telepharmacy, they have a confirmed time, so they can made available for that particular time, and we can do our clinical pharmacy services over there, right? So this one can be effectively done outside the hospital and clinical settings, where this telepharmacy is being done widely, and now most of the governments have been considering to go for the online one, right? So yeah, this is what I was saying, like in medication therapy management services among the elderly patients in Connecticut, USA, have succeeded in saving $300,000 by performing the telepharmacy, right? So these are the services that we can do for through telepharmacy. Okay. Yeah. For counseling, we can do through online. Like now we are even we are being separated apart, but the technology keeps us together. So considering this one, we can use or implement the same strategy, like the counseling can be done online, right? So we can through Zoom or through the other Skype, or even through the WhatsApp video call, we can counsel them, right? Effectively, we can do that one, and if possible, we can use the patient information leaflets also in order to demonstrate how they can follow, or how they can yeah. The disadvantages for telepharmacy is there is no clear regulations available, and maybe in India, our Prime Minister have initiated the telemedicine services, right? They have came out with the regulations just a few months back, where they have considered about the Drugs and Cosmetics Act also, like what are the services that can be provided, because now the patient cannot approach, so we need to take up for the another step, right? So that's why the regulations are not being clearly defined so far, and especially for pharmacy, it is not defined. And the operational difficulties is like the other end, if they cannot use or if they don't know how to use the technology, then it is a problem, right? It is a problem. And operationally, the number of pharmacists is not sufficient to deliver the services. When considering the total population of India, there should be a huge number of populations or huge number of pharmacists. As per the WHO, there should be one pharmacist for every 1,600, around 1:1 to 160, I think. The ratio have to be, the pharmacist patient ratio have to be maintained. Okay, but we don't have, even if we have achieved the ratio, most of the pharmacists in our country are working other than the clinical pharmacy setup. It's not in the clinical pharmacy, they're working other than the clinical pharmacy. So we cannot consider that ratio as an effective one in India, right? So difficulty in using technology, right? If the internet connections is very slow, then we cannot do the services effectively, and the cost which have been incurred to implement this one, and it's not much, but still it is a disadvantages, and the data security. Okay, yeah, this is what I was talking about, the pharmacists per 1,000 population. WHO ratio currently is 1:1,600. One pharmacist for every 1,600 individual, but in India we have 1:1,127, right? Where 8.87 for 10,000 population. This is the 2018 report, but among this number, how many are doing the clinical pharmacy services, right? So because we are majorly towards the industry, right? Yeah. The opportunity for the pharmacists. This is I just take a screenshot from the COVID Warriors website. The number of pharmacists, those who have been registered, those who want to be the frontliner, you can see the number of individuals or the number of professionals who have been registered for this one. First place is for the nurses, and next to nurses, the pharmacists are in more. That means like we have came forward to deliver or provide our services, right? Even though there are a lot of risks involved, but we came forward. But how effectively it can be used and how this can be transitioned for a better future, that is what we need to think about. Okay, so challenges in implementing the clinical pharmacy services, right? We have risk of infection, right? If you don't maintain the distance, we have chances for the cross infection, and the infection chances are more. And providing the workflow is more in a setup. Let it be the community pharmacy, when we do all the services, when we have to be occupied, right? So at the time we will be prone, or we will be tend to bit unattentive, right? So which may cause us the infection. So this is a major, because we need to take care of ourselves, then only we can provide our services. And language barrier. Now everyone have been scattered, right? If they know the local language, so it will be better for them, the pharmacists, to communicate with every individual, right? So if not, means then maybe interpreter have to be there, or if not the interpreter, then the other, a family member who can speak the common language, right? If not, maybe you all will be speaking Malayalam. So if not Malayalam, then either Hindi or English, you can use it as a medium of instruction, right? So medium of communication, sorry. How we are going to equip ourselves to deliver the need of the populations, and mainly the lack of confidence and training in appropriate setting, right? So far, we have dispensed the medications and we have done our services. But when we want to be the frontliner, right? Not for the COVID, when we want to be the frontliner, involving in decision making, involving all the major, as defined by the pharmaceutical care principles, right? So we need to have a sufficient training, and also we should be confident enough to face the situation, to provide the services also. Of course, this is for the betterment of the population, right? And professional updation was being stopped because of the COVID pandemic, but I don't think so, because now than the normal time, now during this pandemic, more number of webinars, more number of seminars, more number of faculty development programs have been going, and of course, this has been done free of cost also. That means like we have more opportunity for updating our knowledge also, right? So skill-based one, yes, that may be difficult to get through the online learning, but it is okay. And the major difficulty, another major challenge will be assuring the quality in implementing the clinical pharmacy services, right? No matter whether we provide whatever the services, we have to assure the quality. It should not be compromised at any point, right? So that is the challenges. Yeah. In conclusion, pharmacists can be the frontline medical staff, where not only for the rational use of drugs, maybe in order to achieve the patient outcome also, we can do that one. And in order to do that one, we need to use the technology, right? The technology services for what are the available technology services. And there is a scope for exploring the various roles to be in a healthcare team, right? So some of the major things or major services that I have thought, like, which can be applicable for our country, that I have put it in this slide. So that means like we do have a lot of things to do, right? So with this, I finished my presentation, and thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So in this your lecture, you have covered very nicely. And actually, you have started with the first thing, that is we may make us too proud. That is 7-star pharmacist by World Health Organization. What is the responsibility of the pharmacist? And you have given very nice about the role of clinical pharmacist and responsibilities, what we have to do in the thing. Then clinical pharmacy services, medication therapy adherence is a very challengeable thing in the pandemic situation. How to avoid that, you have really, it is a very immense lecture you have given. And next, that is for most and important aspect about the future, that is importance of vaccination for pediatric care. So you have explained very nicely. So we must all must have some responsibility to make the vaccination properly. And the geriatric cares also, it is maybe forgotten. And then right now, geriatric care may be really in the pandemic situation, we have to take care. And that's among other things, that's a new concept of home medication review. That is you have given. That is really, it may be worthwhile thought about in India and other practices. And next we are coming to the telepharmacy. And now only the telepharmacy plays a major role, and it maybe gives a very impact to the society, you have explained. And finally, you have to, what are the challenges in the implementing of pharmacy services and how to overcome this, that you have given very nicely, sir. Thank you for your scholarly lecture, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And this is the platform for discussion. So participants are requested to come forward for the discussions. There will be 2 options. That is, first you can ask direct questions, as well as otherwise you can put it in the chat box.
Yeah.
You are welcome for discussion. Sir, I would like to ask one more question, sir. That is regarding home medication review.
Yes, sir.
That may be go along with the hospital setup, or we have to go as a community setup, sir?
Sir, basically the concept of home medication review is like the patient, they cannot, they are unable to visit the hospital, right? So in that cases, like we go, that means like the service, we are taking the service to them, they to their doorstep. So we go visit them and we provide the services. So that's why I mentioned, like in Malaysia, we are the home medication review has been done for 3 categories, like geriatric pharmacy, those who are having the psychiatric illness, and as well as the neurological illness, where those patients, they cannot they cannot come to the hospital like the normal individual. So they have a difficulty in reaching the hospital. So that's why the hospital team itself, the physician, the nurse, and the pharmacist, they collectively they go to the individual. And this for geriatric pharmacy, when we speak about the geriatric pharmacy, it can be done like in a nursing homes, right? The nursing home will be having the older residents, so they can be visited by the pharmacist, and we can do the home medication review.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir. Any other questions, sir?
Any other questions, audience, participants? Sudhakar, sir?
Yeah, sir. Very wonderful discussion.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Hello?
beautifully presented and categorized the responsibility of the clinical pharmacist about the pediatrics and public, as well as the geriatric pharmacy. So very clearly you have explained very beautifully, beautiful presentation it was.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir, for taking a strain and explain such a very nice presentation.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. My pleasure, sir. Thanks for inviting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
I see some.
Participant, any more questions?
Hello.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please proceed, sir.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Shishir Nandi. I am calling from Uttarakhand.
Yes, sir.
It's a really very informative lecture. I am sincerely thankful. What I would like to say, IPA, Indian Pharmacist Association, recently sent a letter to Prime Minister to allow pharmacists to conduct COVID-19 tests and offer other services. So, how does pharmacist help telephonic health consultation, and how does they can help to conduct the routine examination? Is it okay, or I mean to say, how does pharmacist provide telephonic health consultation in this pandemic situation?
Yes, sir.
Because
You mean, yeah.
the people are very afraid whenever they are suffering from fever, dry cough, like symptoms of the COVID-19, they are getting afraid to visit the hospital and test. What is your opinion, sir?
Yeah, definitely. Even not necessarily to talk about the general public, even the educated, well-educated people itself, when we have some symptoms, right? Because now there are a lot of information about the COVID-19 is doing rounds through the Facebook, through the various media. So when we have some symptoms, then immediately we will be suspecting like whether do we have COVID or not. I think this is a general perception, because I also have received a few calls like, do this symptom resemble, or do this COVID-19, or they need to take for the test or not. But by doing this one, because like the suspicion is there for everyone, but with this one, if they go for testing, so they can risk themselves, or if they take the medication also, then that is also creating problems, right? So in order to avoid this one, we as a pharmacist, we can provide our consultation. We can provide that through telephone, because no need to have a face-to-face interaction. We can through call, or even if we want to see their symptoms or their condition, maybe we can go through the video call itself, right? So maybe then we can identify whether the patient really is having the conditions or not by educating them like what it will be and how many days they need to go for or they need to wait for before they go for the consultation, right? And even thanks for sharing that one, sir, because the IPA have recommended like to use the pharmacist in COVID screening. Some of the other countries, the pharmacists are already been used for screening the patients, right? Because pharmacists are the first point where the public is been approaching us. So that means like actually we are risking ourselves, but okay, even then we have been providing the services, right? So in order to avoid, in order for the betterment of the public. Did I answer your question, doctor?
Yes,
Okay.
very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. Yeah,
Any other-
because, yeah.
Yeah, I see another question like Ms. Archana, about the effectiveness of patient counseling through telephone. Yes, the effectiveness of the patient counseling through telephone, maybe if we think traditionally, so far traditionally we have done the counseling like maintaining the eye contact, maintaining the proximity, maintaining our kinesics, everything we have been maintained so far traditionally. But because of this pandemic, you need to think about the other way also, like the pandemic have caused the patient to suffer, right? They don't want to take the medication. They don't have a clear-cut information, right? And by doing the technology, I don't think like it is going to affect in any way, other than if they have the internet issues or the connection issues, those things only. But in addition to that one, everything is being done face-to-face, because just like I'm performing in front of you, or I'm delivering in front of you, and you're seeing like how I'm, what is my what is my communication, right? So I think the effectiveness of counseling is not going to be compromised. Even the other end also is going to come live, so they can have an interaction through live, the video itself, like, and also maybe we can demonstrate like instead of sitting in front of each one, so we can do it through the online way, right? Telepharmacy can include the other messenger platform also. Through online, we can do that one also, so which can be effective, right?
Participants are requested for come for discussions. Sudhakar sir.
Sir?
Can we go for?
Sir. Thank you very much for your beautiful presentation, sir. Dr. Ganesh, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Rashmi madam.
I thank Dr. Ganesh Pandyan Balasubramanian sir for this incredible speech. We are so indebted for the time and information you shared with us. Kindly accept a heartfelt gratitude from the management and staff of Nehru College of Pharmacy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
sir.
Stay safe. Thank you.
Actually, we'll conclude this session with a small thought. That is, wherever the art of medicine is loved, there is also a love of humanity. With this, we'll conclude the session. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
With this, we are at the end of today's session. I sincerely thank all the delegates for your time and attention during the session. We are highly grateful for the opportunity to share this time with you all. Nehru College of Pharmacy would like to express our appreciation for the effort you have made to participate in the International E-Faculty Development Program. This program will continue tomorrow, 15th September 2020 at 9:30 a.m. I request everyone to join for the same. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, one and all.